My name is Rishi Adari, and I'm the Technical Sales Manager for North America. With me, I have Devan Pratt, who's actually driving this software. So what you're looking at here is different shale plays in the United States. So if you notice, there's a lot of potential in order to make this country energy independent. With gas prices being so low, there's a lot of demand for the oil-rich zones, which are designated in green up here. You see the one on the top is the Bakken, and the one on the bottom as well. So for my presentation, I'm going to focus on one such active resource play very close to us, the Eagle Ford. So let's take a closer look at the drilling activity in this particular area. So what you're looking at here is three different zones. You see the top zone is basically the oil-rich zone, and the bottom zone in red is the gas zone. Right in the middle is that condensate zone. So if you notice it, there's explosion of wells drilled in the oil-rich zone designated by those dots in green and red. So for our presentation, I picked one such active oil-rich zone, and let's take a closer look at that particular field. Now what I can do with the DecisionSpace suite is I can incorporate all the geospatial information directly into the system. That's what you're actually looking at here. I use the ASRI engine capabilities we have within the GIS module. I went online, cropped the area of interest. I took that aerial image and I draped it with my digital elevation model in order to understand my topology or the lay of the land, if you would. And the other thing I did in here is I can incorporate the lease information that I have accessible from county as well, where I can access directly from this particular tool. So what you're looking at here is three different leases: the pink, the blue, and the yellow. Those are the three leases we have. And if you notice it closely, right between the leases, there's some engineering constraint data. For example, those white lines you're seeing, those are the road lines that are actually following right in our leases. And also, right in the middle of those leases, there's a river that flows. And if you notice it, the northwest corridor is pretty terrain and hilly, and also the environmentally sensitive area in green right there. So you want to make sure we don't position any of our pads on that slope and risk the mechanical stability of the pads. And also we want to stay away from that environmental region so that we minimize the disturbances as much as possible. And not only that, we don't want to place any of our pads in the river either, and also maintain the setback within the leases for our pads as well. So there's a lot of challenges as far as the pad placement is concerned for this particular area. This is how it would be. You won't get perfect squares. It will be irregular. You have to selectively look at the reservoir properties for the organic content and the properties of the rock in order to effectively lay out your laterals and develop these fields. Now if you go take a closer look on the extreme right lease in yellow, what you're seeing in red are the wells that are actually drilled already in this area. Now let's take a closer look at the drilling and production data and see if we can learn anything from them for our field planning process. So what you're looking at on the left side of those two wells have a very good production compared to the other two wells. Now what is actually driving the production for those left two wells? For that, what we can do is we can use tools like the Shale Expert, XBAT in order to quantify the total organic content within the rock and also mechanical properties. Let's take a look at a couple of those maps. So what you are looking at right now is basically the total organic content. So if you take a look, those two wells with high production and also the other two wells, most of them, they fall in the same uniform band of green color, which indicates it's not the total organic content that's driving the production on the left two wells. Now let's take a look at the rock properties in this area. Now those two wells on the left, they fall right smack on that high brittle area which is designated in the red, and that's what is actually driving the production in this particular field. So this is a good information for me to understand before I go ahead with my field planning process. Now let's see if we can learn anything further in relation to the drilling and production point of view for these wells in this area. Now what you're looking at here is the topology or stratigraphy of the field. So if you notice it, Eagle Ford is that middle zone which is sandwiched between the upper Eagle Ford and the Bura zone. So that's the area of interest for our well planning. So also you want to make sure you don't want to get any close to that Bura zone which is rich in limestone and acid gases. So you don't want to take the sulfuric gas inside our wells and eventually shut down the entire facility. So you want to minimize that. Other thing for Eagle Ford, it dips down stratigraphically from the northwest to southeast corner. So usually most of the time what the operators do is they have an up-dip kind of configuration with a heel down and toe up in the reservoir so that they can get effective drainage out of these reservoirs and also during the fracking process. So that's an important information for us in order to plan our well plans as well. And the other thing we noticed is it's not just enough to lay the lateral in the sweet spot. You got to lay it very effectively. What am I talking about? You need to make use of the natural fracks that exist within the rock and line up your well in such a way that they stay perpendicular so that you can drive the propellant into those crevices, keep them open with the sand mixture, and the chemicals will do their action to propagate those fracks down the road. So that's the key important thing, lining up our lateral along that stress directions. Now other thing we noticed with the operators in this area, they're actually drilling those wells which are designated in the green very close to each other so that there's a nice overlapping between adjacent stimulation treatments which are designated in red ellipses there. So you want to avoid the top two scenarios where you're leaving majority of the rock unstimulated. Okay? Now